as far as, is he going to turn people in? Is he going to cooperate? If the federal government wants him to cooperate and they're going to cut his time, because right now he's looking at 15 to life. With all the charges he had to, he won't get out till 70 years old. He about 70. That's when they start talking about letting him come to a halfway house.
Started like a whisper in a storm. Gene Dill, Diddy's longtime bodyguard, stepping out of the shadows with a truth bomb that could rattle the entire hip-hop elite. According to Gene, Jay-Z was never truly Diddy's friend. Not for a single day. The suits, the smiles, the backstage handshakes, just smoke and mirrors masking a ruthless competition, and, if Gene is to be believed, a long-game betrayal that may have landed Diddy in cuffs. He says Jay was feeding the FBI from the inside, offering up details on Diddy like it was a business transaction. And if that's true, we have to ask, was Diddy's downfall part of a premeditated master plan, one executed with surgical precision by a man he once toasted with Cristal?
You understand? I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand.
See, this wasn't just a tiff between two moguls. This is the kind of betrayal that uncoils slowly over decades, like a snake worming in the spotlight. Gene paints a picture of a friendship that never truly existed. Just two men circling each other in the same arena, one always trying to stay one step ahead, the other never realizing he was being hunted from the start. Jay-Z, the clean-cut strategist, always polished, always calm, while Diddy, louder, flashier, and far more reckless, seemed to think the empire he built was untouchable, until it wasn't. What we're hearing now is that the whole power dynamic may have been rigged from the jump. According to Gene, Jay-Z was playing both sides, all smiles in the public eye, while carefully pulling strings behind the scenes. A man who knew how to stay clean, while getting everyone else dirty. He didn't need to be in the room when things went south. He just needed the right people to believe the worst about Diddy. And who better to provide that believable insider info to the feds than someone close enough to never raise suspicion?
And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
Then there's the chatter about Jay-Z's so-called shadow ops, a phrase tossed around by a few ex-industry folks like it's folklore, but with just enough detail to keep us curious. A private circle of fixers and enforcers who supposedly dug through the skeletons in people's closets and knew how to make inconvenient problems go away, quietly, permanently. If this crew really existed, some are wondering, were they behind the sudden wave of silence that's followed Diddy's most dangerous moments? And could they have laid the groundwork for his arrest long before the feds knocked on his door? There's something chilling about the timeline too. Rumors say Jay-Z's alleged betrayal wasn't a reaction, it was a strategy. Something calculated years ago. Possibly when their paths first started to overlap in New York's underground. That quiet club night in LA when they sat with Kathy White and Claudia Jordan at Tao. That's the night some insiders point to as the spark. Kathy, a stunning publicist and fitness personality with deep roots in the entertainment world, was caught between two titans, Jay-Z and Diddy, and not nearly as anonymous as either of them would have liked.
If you're a halfway intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some keep getting?
Right.
Kathy's name keeps coming up, again and again. The way she passed, the timing, the silence afterward, it all raises questions. One tabloid editor even said Kathy had hinted at revealing everything. According to reports, she'd been contacted by a major tabloid just 2 weeks before her passing. They were investigating the Jay-Z connection. Kathy gave them a taste. But then, out of nowhere, she calls Jay-Z directly and says she's going public. A confession for a price. Less than 48 hours later, Beyonce announces her pregnancy to the world in a VMA moment that hijacked headlines. Kathy, gone just like that. No autopsy ever made the light of day. The toxicology report? Buried in bureaucracy. Her cause of demise was marked down as an aneurysm, something that can happen, sure, but even the NYPD called it uncertain at the time. And if you believe the gossip, Kathy didn't have enemies, except for what she knew. A former editor from Star magazine said Kathy initially denied any affair, but after being confronted with photos of her alongside Jay-Z and Diddy in Vegas, she backtracked and began considering a tell-all. Then, like clockwork, she stopped showing up to work. Her friend finally delivered the news. She's gone.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struggling.
Claudia Jordan, her close friend and fellow nightlife regular, has kept her silence for years, but a blind item from Crazy Days and Nights claims she's convinced Jay-Z wanted Kathy out of the picture. The phrasing is stark. He wanted her gone, and not long after, she was. Could that be coincidence? Maybe. But maybe not, especially when you consider the whispers about Jay-Z having law enforcement and even medical examiners in his back pocket. That's not a rap bar. That's what a source told a former tabloid editor who tried to run the Kathy story, but got mysteriously shut down by higher-ups. Let's not pretend Jay-Z is squeaky clean here. He's publicly admitted to dealing in his early days. He's also confessed to stabbing record producer Lance Rivera in a nightclub dispute back in the 90s. That case was swept under the rug faster than you can say reasonable doubt. There was also that quiet 2001 arrest for illegal possession, barely a ripple in the press. But this goes deeper than street stuff. According to music insiders, Jay-Z has perfected the art of staying untouchable. He doesn't just avoid the dirt, he delegates it. And if Kathy White was about to light a match under his empire, is it really so impossible to imagine that someone snuffed her out before she could?
By the way, wasn't this all around the time when Aaliyah and Beyonce's solo career was struggling?
Even Beyonce's name isn't immune here. Some folks believe she was complicit or at least comfortable with the arrangement. One wild theory suggests Kathy's silence wasn't just for Jay, it was for the brand. A scandal like that dropping at the same time as a baby announcement? Disaster, especially when Beyonce was still trying to recover from the lukewarm reception of her album 4. Insiders claimed she wasn't actually pregnant, that a surrogate had been arranged to protect her image, her body, her marketability. Combine that with Kathy's timing and things start to feel orchestrated. And Kathy's not the only one. There's a growing list of names. Kim Porter, for instance, another woman with direct ties to Diddy, found unresponsive under vague circumstances. Jaguar Wright, the outspoken singer with zero filter, went on record saying she absolutely believes Diddy had something to do with Kim's end, but then added this: Sean Carter's worse, he's smarter. That's a line we haven't been able to shake, because it suggests something even darker than what's already on the table. It suggests that Jay-Z doesn't get his hands dirty, he just signs the checks.
Yeah.
Blowing up cars.
Yeah.
Is he this gangster that behind the scenes that is that him? Or is that people
Shout
running?
out to Wendy Williams.
The more you follow this thread, the more tangled it gets. There's talk of secret tapes, shadow blackmail, and a long-standing power struggle between two men who never trusted each other. Jay-Z may have helped lift Diddy into certain rooms back in the day, but if Gene Deal's right, he also started planting landmines the minute Diddy turned his back. Some even believe Jay's moves were motivated by survival, not just ambition, that taking Diddy down was the only way to keep his own secrets hidden, because Kathy wasn't the only one with dirt to sell. So what's real and what's just smoke? The industry runs on silence, and silence is the one thing Jay-Z has mastered. Diddy's downfall might look like the end of an era, but what if it's just another move in Jay's master plan? If he's really been leaking info to the FBI framing rivals, buying silence, then we have to ask, what else has he buried to protect his kingdom?
Just different things that's not really beef though. That's just competitive. energy, you know?
Competitiveness. All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him
Okay,
like that.
damn, all right.
The ripples from Jay-Z's alleged betrayal didn't just rock Diddy's empire, they might have reshaped the entire music industry. From the outside, it looked like a golden age of hip-hop moguls carving out their lanes. But if we pull back the curtain, what we see is less of a brotherhood and more of a Cold War. Backroom alliances, silent sabotage, artists caught in the crossfire. And Jay, he moved like a grandmaster, positioning himself at the center of it all, immune to the fallout, untouched by scandal. While Diddy was throwing parties and pushing headlines, Jay was building a fortress, one move at a time. There's a growing sense in the industry that Jay-Z has become something close to untouchable. He's not just rich. He's institutionally insulated, a billionaire married to pop royalty, with deep ties to tech, art, fashion, and politics. He's made himself valuable to people in very high places. So valuable, in fact, that calling him out has become almost unthinkable. And when someone does try, they're either ignored or they disappear from the conversation, sometimes literally. But not everyone stayed silent. When 50 Cent mocked Jay's loyalty to Diddy after the arrest, it didn't come off as petty. It sounded like someone cracking a door open. Friends to the end, Jay. Are you still there? That's not shade. That's a warning shot.
His sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You gotta imagine, the feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped. It's those other things that come under the guidelines.
But let's not lose sight of where the silence began. Kathy White's final days feel less like a tragedy and more like a locked puzzle box. She was young, ambitious, and right on the edge of exposing a secret she may have realized too late was bigger than she could control. Kathy reportedly told a major tabloid she had something on Jay-Z and she planned to go public. She even called him directly. According to sources close to the tabloid, she wanted compensation to stay quiet. That's not theory, that's from people who were involved. And less than 2 days later, she was gone, collapsed, rushed to a hospital, pronounced no longer living. Aneurysm, they said. Just like that, end of story. Except it wasn't the end, was it? Because her autopsy results vanished. Toxicology reports delayed, then never mentioned again. Friends started talking. Former industry insiders said, it didn't add up. The timing, the silence, the fact that no major outlet ever followed up, even when the story was practically gift-wrapped. A few brave voices tried. Hollywood Street King, for one, kept digging. But the deeper they got, the more pressure came down. An LA publicist who spoke anonymously said Kathy was scared in her final days. She felt watched, she felt cornered, and whatever she knew, whatever she was about to say, vanished with her.
Whoever talks about best of both worlds. Nobody talks about that.
Nobody talks about this shit.
Nobody talks about that project.
They swept that smooth under the rug.
Why?
This brings us to the one person who arguably had the most to lose from a Kathy White scandal, Beyonce. The timing is eerie. Kathy passes away just hours after Beyonce's pregnancy reveal at the VMAs, a calculated, high-impact moment meant to dominate headlines. And it did. No one was talking about anything else. But beneath that golden dress and staged belly reveal, insiders say the pressure was building, a PR meltdown was coming, and Kathy was the match. So, was that announcement a joyful moment or a decoy? Could it have been a play to bury a scandal before it began? Now, we're not saying Beyonce pulled strings, but we are pointing to the long-standing whispers that she's more than just the quiet half of a glamorous duo. Some call her the enforcer, the fixer. One industry veteran described her as ice cold behind the scenes. Another said she knows everything and nothing gets out unless she allows it. Maybe that's why she's so adored on stage, but nearly invisible when the drama hits the press. She doesn't need to speak. She has people who do that for her, or perhaps who silence others when needed. Kathy may have underestimated the fortress she was up against.
Weirdo. I don't get no what you got in your head, that neural link. You'll never outthink me. Ever.
And here's where the paranoia tightens its grip. What if this was never about just protecting Jay-Z's image? What if this was about eliminating a rival completely? Think about it. Diddy was always louder, bolder, messier. His scandals were front-page chaos. His power base was built on fame. Jay's power was built on silence. But silence doesn't mean weakness. It often means calculation. Gene Deal's claims that Jay leaked info to the FBI don't seem so outlandish when we look at how clean Jay's hands have remained while everyone else got burned. And if he did feed the feds info on Diddy, we need to ask, was it just self-preservation, or was it step one in a silent takeover? The Kathy White situation could have been a liability for both men. She had connections to Jay, but she also partied with Diddy. If she went public, the fallout might have hit them both. So who moved first and who benefited most? Kathy's silence protected one of them. And it wasn't Diddy. That's all we're saying. And let's not forget what Jaguar Wright said. She called Jay worse than Diddy because he's smarter. Her words, not ours. If someone like that is pointing fingers, maybe it's time we stopped asking who's loudest and started asking who's been pulling strings behind the curtain.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man.
We're watching a pattern, and it's playing out the same way every time. Allegations surface, the press tiptoes, the evidence fades, and Jay-Z's name floats above it all, never quite touched. Every time someone tries to call him out, they're either discredited or disarmed. Kathy White, Claudia Jordan, even Ye, who flat out said Jay-Z got enforcers, was met with silence. No denials, no lawsuits, just that same chilling quiet that follows every name attached to him. That's not coincidence. That's control. Even the timing of Diddy's arrest feels suspicious. After decades of whispers and tabloid accusations, the walls finally closed in. And right when Diddy becomes radioactive, Jay-Z's name starts getting scrubbed from their shared history. Rewritten as if they were never close, public statements distancing, photos disappearing. Suddenly, Jay's narrative is that he barely knew the guy. But we've all seen the archives, club photos, business ventures, music deals. You don't share VIP tables and tour profits with someone you barely know. Unless, of course, that friendship was always a mask.
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if you know. Listen, I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show.
So where does this leave us? With a chilling theory that maybe, just maybe, Jay-Z's friendship with Diddy was never friendship at all. It was a slow, patient campaign, a chess game that took years. Let Diddy build the empire, let him take the heat, then slowly guide him toward a cliff edge. And when the time was right, step back and let him fall. If that's true, then Jay didn't just frame a man, he erased a rival, and did it with a smile. But what if this feud between Jay-Z and Diddy wasn't just about ego, betrayal, or business? What if the rivalry is just the visible tip of something much darker? An underground struggle for power waged within the inner circles of elite entertainment. Some believe both men are pawns, or perhaps contenders, in a high-stakes game run by the unseen architects of influence. The whispers about secret societies like the so-called Illuminati aren't just internet noise anymore. They're woven into decades of industry folklore, from cryptic hand gestures in music videos to award show moments that feel more like ritual than celebration. And both Jay-Z and Diddy have been name-dropped too many times to ignore.
Why did he walk that back to you? Because it was a disaster waiting to happen. That's why. Diddy is so radioactive. The one value pardoning Diddy provides for Trump is that it would be the ultimate distraction.
The theory goes like this. Access to true stardom doesn't come from talent alone. It comes from alignment, backroom deals, symbolic obedience, silence in the right places. And those who play the game well are rewarded with protection, privilege, and power that seems untouchable. Jay-Z, with his meteoric rise from Marcy projects to billionaire status, is often cited as the model of that ascent. Diddy, once the king of spectacle, may have stepped too far out of line, drawing too much attention and too many enemies. If both were once part of the same hidden circle, perhaps one became more valuable than the other, or worse, perhaps one was chosen to replace the other entirely. It's a chilling concept, but it explains the pattern. Why scandals evaporate for some but consume others, why certain names are lifted endlessly while others vanish overnight. The rivalry between Jay-Z and Diddy may have started in the clubs of New York, but it now feels like a chapter in a longer, more deliberate playbook. And if these men were ever part of something bigger, an elite machine where loyalty is everything and betrayal is punished quietly, then Kathy White, Diddy's arrest, and even Beyonce's silence may all be symptoms of a war we were never supposed to see.
So that just goes to show you how far the homosexual movement within hip-hop and sports still needs to go.
What other secrets are still buried in this story? What role did Beyonce really play in protecting the throne? Was Kathy White's silence bought, forced, or worse? Let us know what you think in the comments, because this rabbit hole runs deep and we've barely scratched the surface. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, in the world of fame and fortune, the quietest ones might be the most dangerous.